What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So one of the questions I've been getting a lot lately, especially since we now have the results from the Supreme Court, we now know how they voted in favor or against President Biden's student loan forgiveness. But now I'm getting a lot of questions from people that are simply asking, what does this mean moving forward? What does this mean for Social Security recipients? What does this mean to SNAP beneficiaries? What does this mean for additional stimulus? Well, let's talk about those three things. Here's what we do know. Right now, according to recent reports, according to multiple political experts, they are saying that the Biden administration completely understands that they have to get the voters on board with the new plan, or what President Biden's calling his Bidenomics. Now, with that said, what does it mean? Well, we know three things aren't happening. One, there's no student loan forgiveness. That's not happening. Okay. Number two, Social Security has not been addressed, and that is something that President Biden promised that Social Security recipients would see an increase of $200 per month. That hasn't happened. So because of that, what is he going to offer all these Social Security beneficiaries in order for them to hopefully forget what he promised and it never fulfilled? And the third thing that we are seeing right now, Republicans are trying to go back on their, Democrats say it was their word or their promise, but Republicans are going back on their initial offer to provide a 1% increase to the federal budget for fiscal year 2024. Well, because of them going back on their initial offer and saying that we would go up to this maximum number, Democrats are very upset, but at the same time, they're trying to negotiate. Well, what is this negotiation going to entail, and how is this going to impact us here in the United States? Well, this is where things get interesting. So on Friday, we learned that the Supreme Court wouldn't approve President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. That was that plan of up to $10,000 in student loan debt, or up to $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. Well, they said, no, this is not something that we can approve. And so they pretty much blocked it. Well, immediately President Biden came out and said, don't worry, we have another plan. It's going to take a little bit longer. There's still some forgiveness. The payment structure is going to be better. But again, it's going to take some time. Well, that's where we're at. It's going to take time. Okay? Let that sink in. It's going to take time. The student loan forgiveness plan, or student loan payment plan, whatever you want to call it, that's going to take a little bit more time than the Biden administration was anticipating. Likely, this is going to lead into the end of 2023 and into 2024. The second thing is SNAP benefits. Are we going to see an increase here? Well, according to all the reports that I've been reading lately, is no. We're not going to see an increase outside of the cost of living adjustment for 2024. Again, this is going to come sooner rather than later, because we're only a few months away from the cost of living adjustment for SNAP going into effect. But outside of the cost of living adjustment, I don't see an increase outside of that. Also, the cost of living adjustment is going to factor in inflation. Inflation is coming down. The expectation is inflation is going to continue to drop, which would mean the cost of living adjustment for 2024 for SNAP beneficiaries is not going to be as high as what the 12 point some percent that we saw in 2023. So just keep that in mind. The third thing, Social Security. I am always looking for different articles, different reports and interviews, and leaked information all over. I look on multiple different websites. I'm looking on YouTube, looking on Twitter to see what lawmakers are talking about, what White House aides are referring to, what just the news reporters at the White House, what they're saying. And lately, haven't heard a whole lot. Honestly, I just want to be very clear on this. I haven't heard a lot on Social Security simply because everybody was waiting for two things. They were waiting for the debt ceiling bill to pass. That passed earlier on this month. No big deal. We knew it was going to happen. So that passed. Then the next thing was we were going to wait on the federal budget, right? The appropriation bills for fiscal year 2024. Well, then we heard that has to be put on hold because we need to figure out whether or not we have student loan debt. Is this going to be forgiven or not? Well, we have an answer there. So now that we have those answers, now lawmakers can go back to the drawing board and figure out how can we reach an agreement on the 12 appropriation bills. Well, the House has already worked on 6 of them, and then the House is supposed to get into small little meetings over the next couple of weeks. But the issue there is Congress isn't even they're on recess. They're not in Washington. They're on recess for the July 4th weekend, right? Well, technically it's a 2-week vacation, but they're on recess. So just keep that in mind. As of right now, nobody's discussing Social Security, at least from what I can see. Okay, what they are discussing is how are we going to change these appropriation bills? How are we going to find some common ground? Because Democrats want to increase spending. Republicans say, no, we need to decrease spending. But how do we do it? That's where things are getting somewhat tricky. And so I just want to fill you in on what's going on right now, because again, I'm getting a lot of questions because everybody's saying that. Right now, Republicans, they simply blocked President Biden's plan of giving up to $10,000 or $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients student loan relief or forgiveness. Well, what's the next thing they're going to block? That's what I keep getting questioned, right? That's the question that I keep getting. And I wish I could answer that, but honestly, I don't know. Nobody knows at the time. But the one thing that I do know is as soon as these reports come out, I'm always on my phone, always on the computer. I'm always looking to figure out what's going to happen. How is this going to impact the U.S. economy? How is this going to impact our money moving forward? And what I can tell you is every little thing matters. I know a lot of people ask, well, why do you keep providing an update if there's no big news? Well, the reason why there's not big news is because you're getting fed all these little pieces of information as we go along. So in the grand scheme of things, in the very end, it's not a big breaking news story because you've been up to date all along. That's one of the reasons why I continue to give these little updates here and there. The last thing I just want to say, are we going to see additional stimulus? The answer is yes. We are going to see stimulus, but it's not going to be in the form of a stimulus check. Republicans have said that, and again, not a lot, they're not the vast majority of Republicans, but many Republicans have already been very specific and stated that, yes, we do need to provide some form of additional relief. Doesn't mean it's going to go to individuals. Doesn't mean it's going to go to the federal government. It could go to banks. It could go to other businesses that are just struggling. And some of the stimulus, it might not be a check. It might be in the form of a tax credit, right? That's what we could see. Or at least that's what many people are expecting. So as we get more information as to what is going on here, I promise I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates. All I ask is if you do 2 things. First off, hit the like button on this video. It really does help out the channel. Also, consider subscribing so you never miss an update. And I will see you guys on the next one.